Hello and welcome to Tuesday Talks with GLCO. Today I am here with Dr. Robert Pattengale, and we are in the office, and as you can see we are 6 feet apart, and we will have a wonderful conversation today, and we're so glad that you joined us. Welcome, Bob.
Well, thank you.
Good to have you with us today. I want to begin by saying thank you to you. I know that you served in the Army as captain, and in fact you did spend some time in Iran, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, I went through ROTC and went into the service in '59, assigned to San Francisco, which is really tough duty. I know, living on the Presidio.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody
right?
has to do it. So I had taught in public school for 1 year before I went into the Army, and I knew I wasn't going back to public school. So I stayed another year, extended my program with the Army, and in the fine print it said if during that extension you get overseas assignments, you have to take it. Well, I was already planning on getting out and going to graduate school when I got assigned to Iran. So I spent 2 years in Iran as a military advisor. Actually, I ran a post office for the embassy and for the Army. But it was an interesting assignment. I got to know the Iranian people a bit. They're wonderful people.
Well, having our Memorial Day celebrations yesterday, it is very timely that you're here, and we certainly thank you and all the many veterans and military families for the service that you've given to us and the people of the United States. And it's really wonderful, Bob. When you finished your tour of duty, I know that you came back here to Michigan and you went to the University of Michigan and finished your master's degree and your doctorate degree in musicology. And from there, then you taught at Minnesota State University in Moorhead. And if I recall, you were there for 29 years, and that's wonderful. And in fact, you were chair of the music department for 17 of those years. So about 1997, I think you retired and you came to Northern Michigan, more specifically up here to Petoskey. Now, what brought you up here to the Petoskey area?
Well, we have to backtrack a bit. I went to Western as an undergraduate, piano major, and got a music ed degree. You know, all my friends went to Michigan State, but the smartest thing I perhaps ever did was to go to Western. That's where I met my wife.
Alice, yes.
Yes, and she grew up in Petoskey, and that's what brought us back here. So for 29 years, every summer, we would drive back from Minnesota to Walden Lake.
Is that a family home on Walden Lake, Bob? Or
Well,
did you
initially it was part of the family, and then her folks, Alice's folks, sold some of the property, and we were able to build a house of our own. And we did that in 1976. So Alice's father had a grocery store here in Petoskey for many years, and he was a wonderful woodworker.
Mm.
So during the process, he and I eventually became really close friends. Father-in-laws are sometimes an issue, but we built 3 harpsichords over a period of a number of years.
Wow.
Summer projects.
Well, it sounds like, and I know that you cannot sit still and that you're always working on a project, but shortly after you settled back up here then in Petoskey, you started, essentially, you founded and you started the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that happened?
Well, we moved our harpsichords back, and they needed somebody to play with. So, I've looked around and gathered some friends, instrumentalists, and we started, playing. And I was asked by a friend about youth orchestras, because he had 2 daughters studying violin, and there were no ensembles for them to play. So I said, well, I had a little experience back in Moore. He talked into starting a youth orchestra. And some of the players that got involved, John Van Patten was teaching here in the community at the time. Bing Farrar, who had been the orchestra director in one of the prominent schools in Columbus, Ohio, had retired here. And Bing was a bass major from Eastman. And he was reluctant. He said, I did that so many years, I don't want to do it again. Of course, the moment he got in front of the kids.
Yeah. That always is just so motivating, and it's just so wonderful to be able to teach students and youngsters how to play an instrument or more about music. And so the orchestra basically started with several of you professional musicians getting together and forming a youth orchestra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we did, essentially we did 4 concerts, one in the spring, and then one the following fall, another in the spring, and another the next summer. And by that time, we had gathered enough players, teachers from the community, and we had probably 15 or 16 of the students that were able to perform at a level to put these little concerts together. And one of the players, Peggy Beck, who had been a professional player, said, let's make this a real orchestra.
A real orchestra.
So, we did the paperwork. I wrote the 501c3. I went back to the Fargo Moorhead Symphony that I had played harpsichord with for years, took their plans for bylaws
Sure.
and all those good things,
Sure.
and adapted them. And
Right.
we formed the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra.
And my goodness, Bob, we will be celebrating 20 years next year. So walk us through those 20 years, if you can, briefly, maybe.
Yeah.
A lot of changes.
Yeah, well, I started with principally the kids, and then eventually the repertoire got a little difficult. The youth orchestra had developed its own concert season, and so we separated.
Okay.
A few of the really advanced kids continued to play with the orchestra, with the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra, but we went through a series of auditions for conductor, and then hired Matt Hazelwood, who was at Interlochen at the time, and had retired as the emeritus conductor of the Battle Creek Symphony. And Matthew was a gifted teacher, so he knew how to choose repertoire that would develop the orchestra, and he did that for us until he had an unfortunate heart attack.
Yeah.
A week before we were doing Carmina Burana.
Oh my goodness. I have heard those stories. Yeah.
It
What a
was
loss.
Remarkable loss, and last minute person from Butler University came in and took the ensemble and the soloist and got it on. We had a National Endowment for the Arts grant to do that, so we couldn't let it slip. We had to do it.
Yes.
But,
And NEA grant is a big deal.
yeah. That was one of our high points. We have a variety of others.
Yeah.
Matthew was involved with a youth program in Colombia, and that's where he had his heart attack, and died very unexpectedly.
Out of the country,
So
yeah.
we went through another search and hired Libor, and we're all thrilled with the excitement.
Sure, yes, of course, and the last 5 years, Libor Andres has been with the orchestra now for 5 years, and we have continued to grow and get better and stronger. The orchestra, I think, it sounds like, was comprised of musicians who were local and some musicians from Traverse City and the Interlochen area, and that still is the case today.
Yeah. Well, when I look back, I use the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra as my model. And our first 3 or 4 years, we did a lot of concerts around town. We went to Indian River and Gaylord and played because that's what the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra did. And we developed, I think, an orchestra following in those communities. Today, we're much more centrally located. But those were good times. We would do a Saturday night concert and then move to a different venue for a Sunday afternoon concert. Like we were an orchestra on the road, literally. And
Well,
the St. Paul was my guide because they're only about 20 miles from Minnesota Orchestra. And so they have to choose repertoire that the Minnesota Orchestra is not going to
it's
play.
not, yeah,
And that was sort of my guiding principle for us being a chamber orchestra, because we've got the Traverse Orchestra, a very fine orchestra,
yes.
just down the road.
Right.
So we're offering something a little different and unique.
We are, yeah, we are, and we do have audience members that go both ways,
Mhm.
that will take in a Traverse Symphony Orchestra concert in Traverse City, and people from Traverse City that come and hear Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra. I think with the Sunday series that has developed, we are, and I like to sometimes refer to that as a neighborhood series, because as you just pointed out, with the Sunday series, we are going into surrounding neighborhoods and bringing classical chamber music to the area, various areas, by performing in local churches.
Yeah, that's an important outreach that I think is critical to continuing. When we started those, because one of our board members said, we need to have a presence every month.
Yeah.
And that provided that opportunity. Also, it gave our players an opportunity to work on small ensemble things, which all musicians love to do. That's
Right.
central to their soul, literally. Anyway, that's,
So you started this, as we said before, 20 years ago, and what did you think? What is your vision? Here we are today, bigger, better, stronger, have a wonderful music director, you're still very involved in the orchestra. What vision do you have for Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra in the next 5 years?
well, I think when we started, I thought, well, if this runs for 3 years, it'll be a good run. Well,
There you are.
I think that we're still offering something of real value to the community, and we've developed a good following. You mentioned the Traverse Orchestra. Their concertmaster is our concertmaster.
Yes.
Their whole principal is our
Yeah.
principal.
Lynn.
Their principal bass is our principal bass.
Gary, yeah.
So it provides those players with a chance to do repertoire that the Traverse Orchestra is not going to play. And I think that's valuable for them. We started the orchestra for the players. And I still think that that's the core of our purpose is to give the musicians a chance to make music.
Right. Well, it's been wonderful to have this opportunity to sit together and talk and bring some insights into Bob Pattengale to you and to all of us today. Thank you so much, Bob, and we can't thank you enough for everything that you have done and that you continue to do. You've received an individual Eddie Award from Crooked Tree. We have established the Robert Pattengale Award from the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra to acknowledge and celebrate exemplary volunteers for the organization, because in everything that you've done, whether it's in a professional musicologist, as you still write our program notes, or as a musician playing harpsichord with the orchestra, you've also done so much volunteer work to keep the orchestra running and moving, and we are so grateful for everything that you do for us and continue to do for us. Any closing comments, Bob?
Well, you know, I think they could have found a better name for the volunteer award.
Well, I don't. I don't. I think it's extremely fitting, and the people that are recipients of that award are truly very, very proud and very honored to receive the award, and we're thrilled to be able to have that in your honor. Bob, thank you again for everything that you continue to do for the orchestra, and we will continue to be strong, and there will be a COVID world after this, a post-COVID world, excuse me, and the orchestra will be here, stronger and better than ever, and providing what music gives to all of us.
Well, thank you, Judy.
Thank you.